Over millions of dollars spent, countless memes generated, and yet, some NBA teams have managed to turn the free agency into a financial disaster. Free agency is a roller coaster. You got your highs, your lows, and then you got these contracts. The ones that'll make you question if basketball executives are in their right minds. Let's break down the 7 worst deals of the summer of 2024. This summer, the NBA was a money-printing machine. While some teams made strategic moves to improve their rosters, others found themselves entangled in contracts that could haunt them for years to come. Here are the 7 worst contracts of the 2024 NBA free agency. Number 7. OG Anunoby, New York Knicks. OG Anunoby signed a massive deal with the New York Knicks. We're looking at a 5-year, $213 million contract here. That's no small change. It's eating up about 26% of the Knicks' salary cap for the 2024-25 season. Now, Anunoby's stats from last season averaged 14.7 points, 4.2 rebounds, and 2.1 assists in 50 games. Solid numbers, but not that impressive. So why did the Knicks back him up? Well, it's all about that defensive impact. When Anunoby joined the team mid-season, the Knicks turned into absolute crusaders. They were outscoring opponents by nearly 24 points per 100 possessions with him on the floor. That's the kind of impact that doesn't always show up in the box score. The Knicks had to keep him, after trading away Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett to get him. And let's not forget, they also gave up huge draft picks to sign Mikal Bridges from the Nets. The plan is for Anunoby and Bridges to form a defensive wall against the likes of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in Boston. But here's the twist. Anunoby's now got the 18th largest contract in the league. He's making more than some legitimate superstars. And over the past 4 years, he's actually played fewer games than injury-prone stars like Joel Embiid and Paul George. The Knicks are betting big that Anunoby can be that crucial third option on a championship contender. But there are some question marks. Can he stay healthy? Will his regular season impact translate to the playoffs? And what happens when it's time to pay Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges? It's a high-risk, potentially high-reward move for the Knicks. They had to do it, but it's gotta make some fans a little nervous. Number 6. Tobias Harris, the Detroit Pistons. Moving on to our next worst contract, Tobias Harris and the Detroit Pistons. Harris just signed a 2-year, $52 million deal. That's $26 million a year for those keeping score at home. Now, Harris came off a solid season with the 76ers. He put up 17.2 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 3.1 assists per game. Not too amazing. But here's the thing. Sixers fans were practically begging the team to get rid of Harris for years. So what were the Pistons thinking here? Well, it appears they're clearly hoping Harris can provide some veteran leadership and some consistent scoring for their young squad. He's a pro's pro. By all accounts, a great locker room guy. But $26 million a year for that? That's the kind of money that you usually reserve for all-stars or up-and-coming players with superstar potential. Harris is neither of those things. He's a good player, don't get me wrong. On any given night, he can get you 20 points. But his career averages are more modest, about 16 points per game on slightly below average efficiency. And he's got a reputation for disappearing in big games. The Pistons are in a tough spot. They haven't won more than 23 games in a season since 2019. They need to spend money to improve, but is Harris really the guy to build around? It feels like they're paying a premium for normal stuff. Number 5. Max Christie, the Los Angeles Lakers. Alright, let's now talk about a real head-scratcher. Max Christie and the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers just handed Christie a 4-year, $32 million deal. That's $8 million a year for a guy who averaged 4.2 points per game last season. Christie was the 35th pick in the 2022 draft, so let's compare him to some other guys from that same draft class. Andrew Nembhard, picked 31st by the Pacers, started all 17 games in their run to the Eastern Conference Finals. He averaged nearly 15 points a game in the playoffs. His salary for next year? $2 million. Jaden Hardy, picked 37th by the Mavs, was a key bench player in their run to the NBA Finals. He'll also be making $2 million next year. Christie? He couldn't even crack the Lakers' playoff rotation. There was little sign of development in his second year. And yet, the Lakers rushed to give him $8 million a year as soon as the free agency opened. This is the kind of move that makes you question the Lakers' front office. They're actually pinching pennies with LeBron James, asking him to take less money so that they can stay under the salary cap. Meanwhile, they're handing out $32 million to a guy who's shown next to nothing in the NBA so far. Maybe Christie will prove everyone wrong and become a solid rotation player, but based on what we've seen so far, this looks like a massive overpay. Number 4. Miles Bridges, Charlotte Hornets. And now we come to arguably the most controversial contract of the summer, Miles Bridges and the Charlotte Hornets. Bridges just signed a 3-year, $75 million deal to stay in Charlotte. That's $25 million a year for a player with a troubled recent history. Let's rewind a bit. In 2022, Bridges was arrested on domestic violence charges just before free agency. The allegations were serious. His wife accused him of fracturing her nose and wrist, among other injuries. Bridges pleaded no contest and avoided jail time, but he missed the entire 2022-23 season. Fast forward to last season, Bridges returned to the Hornets on a 1-year deal. He told reporters that winning games would change people's perspective on him. Well, the Hornets won just 21 games, 6 fewer than the previous year. Bridges did average 21 points per game, but on below-average efficiency. The team was worse when he was on the floor. So why did the Hornets give him $75 million? No one knows. But after everything that's happened, you'd think his value would have dropped significantly. The Clippers and the Cavaliers reportedly showed some interest, but neither was willing to pay anywhere near what the Hornets did. Number 3. Patrick Williams, Chicago Bulls. Now, let's talk about Patrick Williams and the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls just committed $90 million over 5 years to Williams. That's $18 million a year for a guy who averaged 10 points and 3.9 rebounds last season. Now, to be fair, Williams was the 4th overall pick in the 2020 draft. He's got all the physical tools that you'd want in a modern NBA forward, 6 foot 7 inches, with a 7-foot wingspan. The Bulls are clearly betting on his potential rather than his production so far. But here's the thing, we're 3 years into Williams' career, and we've seen very little evidence that he's ever going to live up to that potential. He's had injury issues, missing 65 games in the 2021-22 season and suffering another season-ending injury this past year. The Bulls are paying Williams like he's already a key piece of a playoff team. But the evidence just isn't there yet. I mean, they were slightly better with him on the floor last season, but we're talking about a team that won just 39 games. Look, Williams is still young. He'll be 23 when the next season starts. There's plenty of time for him to improve. But $18 million a year is a lot to gamble on potential. Number 2. Emmanuel Quickley. Alright, let's talk about Emmanuel Quickley in the Toronto Raptors. Quickley just signed a massive 5-year, $175 million deal. That's $35 million a year for a guy who's been primarily a bench player for most of his career. Now, don't get me wrong, Quickley is a good player. He was runner-up for 6th Man of the Year in 2022-23 with the Knicks. After being traded to Toronto last season, he stepped into a starting role and put up some impressive numbers. 18.6 points, 6.8 assists, and 4.8 rebounds per game. But wait, those numbers came on a Raptors team that went 12-26 with Quickley in the lineup. They were outscored by 6.1 points per 100 possessions when he was on the court. And that's not great. The Raptors are paying Quickley like he's a franchise cornerstone. But is he really that player? His playoff performances so far have been underwhelming. He struggled in his 2 postseason appearances with the Knicks, shooting just 33.3% from the field. Let's put this contract into perspective. Malik Monk, who finished runner-up for 6th Man of the Year this past season, just signed a 4-year, $78 million deal with the Kings. Quickley is getting more than double that. The Raptors are betting big that Quickley can be a key piece of their rebuild. But at $35 million a year, he needs to be more than just a good starter. He needs to be an all-star caliber player who can lead a team to the playoffs. It's a huge gamble for Toronto. If Quickley takes another leap and becomes an all-star, they'll look smart. But if he stays at his current level, this contract could affect their ability to build a contender for years to come. Number 1. James Harden, Los Angeles Clippers. And now we come to number 1 on our list. James Harden and the Los Angeles Clippers. Harden just signed a 2-year, $70 million deal to stay in LA. That's $35 million a year for a player who's clearly on the downside of his career. Let's rewind the clock a bit. In 2021, Harden turned down a 3-year, $161 million extension from the Nets. He was hoping for an even bigger payday, a 4-year, $227 million deal that would have made him the first $60 million per year player in NBA history. Well, needless to say, that massive deal never came. Instead, Harden's been on a steady decline over the past few seasons. Don't get me wrong, he's still a very good player, but he's no longer the eternal MVP candidate he once was. This past season, Harden averaged 16.6 points, 8.5 assists, and 5.1 rebounds per game. Solid numbers, but a far cry from his peak when he was putting up 30-plus points a night and winning scoring titles. The biggest concern with Harden is his declining athleticism. He's not getting to the rim or drawing fouls like he used to, and at 35 years old, that's not likely to improve. Defensively, Harden has never been great. The Clippers allowed 115.2 points per 100 possessions with him on the floor last season. That would have ranked 20th in the league. Now, here's an interesting thing to note. The Clippers traded away 3 first-round draft picks to get Harden last season. They knew they were going to give him this contract. But no other team was seriously in the running for Harden. The Clippers were bidding against themselves. To make matters worse, the Clippers are using the collective bargaining agreement as an excuse for why they can't re-sign Paul George. But they could have kept George, saved their draft picks, and never gotten involved with Harden in the first place. The sad truth is, the Clippers are no longer serious title contenders, and they're paying Harden $70 million just to be a normal player. This contract really feels like the Clippers doubling down on a bad bet. They gave up a lot to get Harden, and now they're overpaying to keep him. It's exactly the kind of move that could set the franchise back for years. And that's why James Harden's contract tops our list of the worst deals of the 2024 NBA free agency period. And with that, we've reached the end of today's video. What do you think? Share with us your opinion in the comment section down below. And if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Share this video with your friends, and press on that bell icon for more upcoming videos. We'll see you next time, stay tuned, and take care.